Bow, bow, Cheers. Pumpkin spice season, bitches.
Are you still on the pumpkin spice?
Yeah. Welcome. I'm totally on the pumpkin spice. I just took a big drink of my pumpkin spice coffee. I've
Twitter
got a nice
fixed
little
itself.
Starbucks Sumatra. Oh, you're good? You went through?
we're
You're
good.
all right now? All right,
Yeah.
good. That is Lachlan Cross. My name is Dean. Yes, you just heard me sipping my I got Starbucks coffee. Never do. Usually I just get the no-name generic stuff and just double it. That's what I do. But I got a Starbucks coffee, and then I went for the pumpkin spice, which, by the way, everybody's getting crazy about it still. Like, I got made fun of all day yesterday. Don't even care because it tasted great, and it's my mouth.
You were
I'll
comfortable
do
in
what I
your
want.
pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Love. Pumpkin spice love. And anyway, so I got dragged and trolled mercilessly yesterday about my Ugg boots and my warm scarf and my winter chemise, all the other dumb, stupid, negative tropes. And you know what? Know what I did? Just made another pumpkin spice coffee and drank it and
So do you
stunted
have-
on it because
You
I
have
don't
the
care.
Keurigs or something?
Yeah. That's
Oh,
right.
you do.
Keurig.
Okay. Have you had Nespresso?
Yep. Love Nespresso. I've got some
I,
espresso pods in there. Delicious. Long espresso pods. I like to have a bigger espresso. The little ones are a pain in the ass.
No.
understood that.
Nespresso.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Not
Nespresso.
Keurig.
No, I know.
The machine.
Nespresso. The little guys. The little tiny ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Little
you
pods.
got a Keurig machine and you got an espresso machine?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I have both.
I don't have the Keurig. I also do we do French press.
Oh, it's because you're fancy.
I'm going to tell you something, and this might
Yeah.
surprise you. I have never in my adult life bought or owned a drip coffee machine.
It's because you're fancy. You're a fancy guy.
We got a Bodum. We got a French press when we got married. And
do you know how much extra work that is than just putting a pod in a thing, closing it, and hitting a button? Do you know how much extra work you give yourself?
I love it. I love the beans. In my lifetime, I've probably gone through 3 or 4 of those grinders to grind the beans. I've got a system down to get it to where I want it. You put it in there, you pour hot water over it, boiling water, and that's
how
my
Bodum
coffee.
works. And then you plunge the thing, and you squeeze it right down, and it just kind of filters through, and you leave it for like 10 minutes, and then it steeps. That's what they call it, steeping. And then it's coffee. It's not tea. It steeps, and then there's way too many fucking steps involved.
I will weird. Take the extra step.
You're weird. There isn't a person like you. Like the only people that do that are hippies and guys like you who have ADHD or some kind of obsessive compulsive disorder.
I have not been diagnosed yet, but I'm sure there's an
OCD?
H or a D or something you could add to my diagnosis for sure. Yeah. I probably should have been medicated at a very...
Yeah, that's when you got to go Keurig. If you don't go Keurig or an espresso, you're just wasting your time. It's the same thing. In fact, it's even better, and you can get millions of them. It's all like you like the ritual of it. I don't want to get into coffee to start the show because we got a bunch of stuff going on. But anyway,
you should try the French press. Honestly, I swear to God, you might.
Too much stuff. Too many things. I don't want all those things. I want less things.
You put all these things in your coffee. Why not take an extra step,
thing.
make a decent cup of coffee so you don't have to hide the taste of it with your pumpkin spice.
I put very little pumpkin spice mix in it, and it's silk oat milk, by the way. I don't do it so I can have a sugary drink. I do it so it tinges the flavor of the coffee.
Do you put sugar in your coffee as well?
Never. No. Never.
Okay. All right.
No sweetener. No nothing. Just a tiny bit of creamer. Boom. I'm done. Changes the taste.
I like coffee though.
Coffee flavored coffee, or do you like flavored coffee? So you don't put anything in your coffee other than
cream.
You put Jameson in it.
That's different. I'm an alcoholic.
Never mind then. Anyway,
that's an A. That's an A.
That's Lachlan Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. That's where you can find him at Lachlan Cross on Twitter. My name is Dean. Lots to get to today. Big problems for Donald Trump. Have you been following the DOJ stuff? The big filing they put out last night? dude
I
is in
know-
so much fucking trouble. It's awesome.
I know a
Like
picture
jail.
came out that showed like the FBI broke into Mar-a-Lago and then they put everything down on his bedroom floor and then snapped a picture.
Right there.
And then, yeah, that's it. That's the thing that I saw today. Outside of that, and everyone going, "Oh my God, there's so many top secret things here." I did not. They keep bringing up the Time magazine cover thing too. I don't know why. Everyone's so fixated
Well, because in the
on
box on the right, there's a bunch of Time magazine covers that he had made about himself while he was president that weren't real Time magazine covers. You know, the ones that you can order online, like where it's like, "Hey, look it, I was on Time magazine." Really?
Apparently
no,
he
I just
hung
fucking
one at
ordered
the-
it online.
He hung one at the golf course.
Yeah. He's
Blew it
fucked
up.
Like, look at all the shit on the floor. This is what we're going to talk about in about 45 minutes from now. All the top secret shit that they found in his desk, in Melania's closet. And we've got some audio to get to, some video. He's got a couple of lawyers. Dude is so fucked. He's the only two lawyers that are willing to represent him are these two like smoke show chicks. One of them is a parking garage lawyer, and the other one's a real estate lawyer. And fuck, is this going to be fun to watch as he goes down? Like, it is on. The DOJ put out a big thing yesterday. They're like, okay, you wanted to know? Here's why we're going after the prick. It's all espionage, top secret information, not supposed to have it, says it's his, not supposed to be his, doesn't belong to him. When you're done being the president, you're not the fucking president anymore.
What's the end game here, though?
The end game, I think, is what they're saying is because in these documents that you're looking at, there's a couple things. One of them was methods, sources and methods. So like spies, names of spies in different countries.
Source
and in the
material,
past like 2 years, a whole bunch of American spies.
I got to
have
go
gone
get my
missing.
dog. Sorry, hang on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Freaking out. Hang on.
And then just to finish explaining this to everybody else, the other part of this that's concerning is there's a whole bunch of top secret spy satellite shit in here too. So it's not just like, oh, he took a letter from Kim Jong-un. He brought back a bottle of vodka from Russia when he met with Putin and he's not supposed to. It's like bad shit. And it's the kind of shit that if he took that to another country, they would be very interested in having. And it's also the kind of shit, which is fascinating to me, that you could use to hold something over your own country, your own government. It's leverage is what it is. And they found this shit and then filed basically in response to Donald Trump. What they did was they filed this report along with this picture, and the filing is incredible. We'll get to it in a couple minutes, but it basically says this, Locke: espionage, stolen records, lied about having these records, said he didn't have any more, had those doofus lawyers of his sign off on it all. So now every one of them are in trouble. Like, they're all in trouble. It's obstruction of justice. It's
You guys keep
espionage,
saying,
it's all of
everyone
it.
keeps saying that. CNN keeps reporting this. That's it. That's over. He's a criminal.
Yeah, I know.
And
But
then
this is fucking serious. This is like this is
no,
paper serious.
He's gonna get away with it.
No, dude, because he couldn't
OJ
get in trouble.
OJ had a
different.
9:12 tea time this morning.
No,
He
I know.
cut
And Bill
the
Cosby
head
is
off
getting
of one of his
pumpkin spice
his
coffee.
girlfriend.
Yeah, I know. But
Bill
he was
Cosby.
president. While we were calling for him to go to jail, it was when he was the fucking president. And presidents can't go to jail. They're literally above the law. The office of the president, whoever has it, above the law. I don't want to get into it now.
I'll believe
but
it
dude
when
is
I
in deep
see it.
shit.
And this is, I want the guy to go to jail. I want him to go to a Russian gulag.
Me too.
Where at noon the guards just come around and they all piss in a hole that he's in the bottom of. But it's not going to happen. It's the United States of America. You either have the perception you have money or you actually have money, and you can get away with anything. How many women did Bill Cosby rape? Like
Probably hundreds.
50?
Yeah, that we know
Like,
of.
and I bet you there's a tweet about the pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks on his Twitter feed this morning.
Maybe.
It
This
just
is
doesn't
different.
make any sense. They don't
Dude,
have the
you know what
same
they
rules.
found? You know what they found? Like names of spies, sources and methods, and spy satellite information that nobody had other than the United States.
Somehow,
That's
this
not
orange dick is going to walk away from this whole thing, and in 3 months, he'll be standing up at a podium in Atlanta, laughing at everything that's happened to him and
Maybe.
making fun of it. And then he'll have a nickname, and he'll have a new nickname for Joe Biden.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
I can't.
that's
see it
my
happening, though.
prediction.
He's kettled, dude. But we'll talk about it coming up in a few minutes, and we'll get to the actual DOJ filing, which is really funny. We've got a couple of food items I want to talk to you about. The Bell thing has gone international, so we'll have a laugh about that together as well. But we've been at each other's throats over the past couple of years, have we not? As a society, culturally, physically, emotionally, verbally, mentally, intellectually, you got the war going on. So everybody's on their own side. Everybody's like, "No, fuck you. No, fuck you." Well, our next guest isn't just about self-defense in a crazy world where extreme violence seems to be the order of the day.
Yeah.
He's also a bit of a de-escalation expert, and he teaches people how to work through conflict with your hands, if necessary, also with your mouth. Please welcome from a podcast called Randy King Live, self-defense expert Randy King, ladies and gentlemen. There he is.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
Good to see you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. You know what's equally awesome is your wood wall behind you. I love it.
Here we go.
I'm supposed to touch it. That's all I know. I'm supposed to.
Yeah, it's very Pierre Poilievere of you.
And then
he loves wood. You love wood.
I got to reminisce. I feel it. I feel the energy.
Anyway, nice to see you. How do you guys know each other? Locke, how did you meet Randy? What's the deal here? How did you guys hook up?
Well, I will give you
did you go through like some kind of like employee sensitivity training? Was Randy your guy?
No. I used to have this guy on my show on a fairly regular basis, who Edmontonians would know, Mike Nickel, and Mike Nickel was running for mayor, and Mike is not typical of what you would generally vote for in Edmonton for mayor, to put it bluntly. And the type of people that vote in civic elections are not the kind of guys that or girls. They're not wired like Mike is wired.
Yeah.
So Mike did not win the mayor's race, and he disappeared. And I get it. He was kind of pissed. And the funny thing is, everything he warned everybody about for about 2 years is coming to fruition now. And it just goes to prove, man, every one of these civic elections, it's literally like 15, 16, 17% of the population is putting these people in. It's really, we're in a bad state right now. Less and less people are voting, not just civically, but provincially, federally. It's at an all-time low because there's just such a disgust. Everybody has such a bad taste in their mouths for politics. So unfortunately, Mike did not get in. And then it's been, how long has it been, Randy, since the election? It's been a year, right?
About a year, yeah. I was on tour last year when it happened. So it's been almost exactly a year.
Literally out of the blue, my phone rings. And it's Mike, and he hasn't missed a beat. He's still this. I had him on the show because he was entertaining. We didn't always agree with him, but the other thing that I liked about Mike was if I didn't agree with him, I could call him out on his bullshit, and he would actually have a conversation with you about it. And you didn't have to agree. It would, and so we had Mike on like once a week for like 2-3 years while he was running for mayor, and all the other politicians in that race avoided me. Anyway, I felt bad for Mike. I tried to reach out to him, and he needed some time to decompress. Yeah. He calls me and he's like, "Locke, you got to get Randy on your podcast." And then that was it.
So here we are. Is that
that
whole explanation
was Locke? You got to get Randy on your podcast,
dude. I'm gonna fix this for you. That whole thing could have been this. I met him through my buddy Mike.
Yeah, that was it. That was pretty much it. It was funny too, because it was 6 minutes on the show before. Lachlan's like, "I don't know who you are. Talk real quick." I'm like, "Okay, here we go." And now I'm here. So,
dude, it's just great to have you. So you met him through a mutual friend of yours.
Yeah.
You're a self-defense expert. Now, Randy King Live is your website. If you go to www.randykinglive.com, you can check it out. He's got a bunch of great stuff on there. We'll get to some of it in just a second. Explain to us what you do. What exactly is your ticket? What is Randy King Live? What is self-defense right now? What are you teaching people?
Great question. So the way that we structure self-defense is 80% proactive skills, being all the things that lead up to and identify, classify, and prevent violence, and then 20% physical response. So the name of my new company is 80/20 Conflict Management Strategies for that number.
Yeah.
So what I do is I travel and I teach people how to identify threats, set proper boundaries, communicate properly, de-escalate situations, and then if stuff goes bad, and you can make no mistakes and still lose, if stuff still goes bad, we then show you really quick, simple, realistic self-defense strategies in order to keep yourself safe in that situation. My theory around self-defense is a self-defense situation should affect your life as little as possible. So if you could talk your way out of it, that's way better than fighting your way out of it. If you can fight without going to jail or hurting yourself or going to physical therapy or just regular therapy in general, that's the goal, because so many people aggrandize violence. In our culture, there's like this Rambo mentality of, oh, I won't let any person within 5 feet of me in my tactical hula hoop. And that's just, it's ridiculous. So what we're trying to do is show people that there are so many different ways to win in a self-protection situation other than just kicking, punching, and choking.
Okay, so what is self-defense or self-protection then? Because what you're talking about isn't just like, okay, it's on. I got to fucking put my dukes up and I got to get going here. I'm gonna get punched or I'm gonna punch back. One of the two things is gonna happen. It was gonna boom. So you teach like that kind of physical self-defense. But what you're talking about is like there are probably 7 to 10 other things that happen prior to you having to actually get your ass kicked or kick someone else's ass or defend your own ass. Correct?
Correct. Oh, absolutely. There's so many things that are going to lead up to a self-defense encounter, right? So self-defense is a legal term. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
Yeah.
It's been taken for marketing by martial arts schools, but self-defense is a legal term. You go and you say, I did this violence, which is illegal, but I'm using an affirmative defense, which is self-defense, saying, here's why I'm justified to do that. So we kind of focus more on self-protection. And I think the biggest distinction between self-protection and martial arts, at least to me, is self-protection is closer to safety training than it is martial arts. Because safety training, the goal is no incident happens, right? You don't go to safe training for like Wimmis and like, so when the barrel comes, you block it and you take it down, you show that barrel who's boss, right? You ideally want barrels never to fall. So our goal is to give you all the tools you need to stop that. And honestly, it's a lot easier than people think. The reason why people get into physical altercations is we separate it into 2 separate areas. One, it's what we call social violence, good people having a bad day, right? So nobody gets in their car and is like, can't wait to road rage later. That's going to be sick, right? That's not.
Have you met Lachlan Cross at all?
I have not actually. And then the other side of the fence is what we call predatory or asocial violence. And these are people that are using violence for secondary gain, usually property, body, or life. So number one is you have to identify which type of violence you're facing, because the strategies that de-escalate one actually amp up the other. So for example, if you were in a bar and getting into a bar fight, being polite, not making eye contact, buying a drink, that's probably going to de-escalate that social situation. But if this is a predator on the hunt looking for compliant prey, that's actually going to put you higher on that threat profile. So our whole job is to talk about that sort of stuff, right? Here's the things you're going to face. Here's the ways to stop it. Honestly, the 2 biggest self-defense tips or self-protection tips I can give people is number one,
go for the nuts.
in the physical part, Lachlan loves a throat punch. I already learned that about him.
Yeah, he loves the throat.
in the not in the physical space, but on the proactive side, number one is strong boundaries. Number 2 is strong social connections. So if you have good boundaries, you are less likely to be selected by predators because they know you're hard to mess with. And if you have good social structures and people to go back to, you're going to be in a lot better place. Because like abusive spouse move number 1 is separate you from your family, right? There's a reason why they do that is you need to have places to go. So a lot of people think that self-defense is just like stranger danger, the person in the alley with the gun. But if you look at the numbers, 70% of victims knew their attacker ahead of time. So when we're looking at self-defense, and people with the posters, like the guy with the angry gun and like, what would you do in this situation? While it's not nothing, it's really only 30% of violent crime. The other 70% is from your partner, your parents, your date, your something else, or some relationship.
Podcast co-host.
Exactly. One of the highest dangers. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Randy.
Yes.
One of the things that I've noticed over the last, I'd say 10, 15 years is I started to become aware of it. And we've talked about this multiple times. I started to become aware of this when my mother diagnosed her brother, who is a raging narcissist. So my uncle, which, by the way, his name's Randy. We're not going to hold that against you. My uncle Randy is a narcissist, and I think there's quite a few other things that we could throw at him as far as terms go for his psychological situation. Not unlike myself or Dean or anybody else, but he's a narcissist. He does not care about anybody but himself. And then when the label got put on it for me from my mother, and I started to realize that this was a thing. This is a common thing that you would run into. And I started to pick up on narcissistic tendencies, especially in people in our business in radio, which attracts that type of personality because it's all about you, right? And you can make it all about yourself. And the funny thing is, one thing that I noticed was certain individuals would get into a social situation and you could just see them scoping the room. And I'm not even talking about from a violence perspective all the time, or somebody from a perspective where the people in that room needed to protect themselves from him. But they would sit and scope the room out, and they would find the people that they thought that they could take advantage of. Get me a coffee. Do this for me. I need you to do that. And the thing is, I've been noticing a lot more of that over the last couple of years. And I think it's a dangerous trend, and I'm not sure where it comes from. Have you put any thought into that? I'm seeing more and more narcissistic personality traits in people, and it's all about themselves, and it's all about who's in this room and what can I get them to do for me.
So that's the predatory part that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lachlan, you're seeing it because you've now identified it. And once you can identify something, you can then deal with it. So it's like that blue car effect, right? You buy a blue car. Now all you see is blue cars. It's not that this is more prevalent. It's that now you have a classification for it.
Are you sure?
I am
sure. You're sure it's not something that's a growing trend based on, I don't know, the social environments that we're dealing with now?
Culture wars.
It could be. You have a higher sample size of people than you've ever had in your entire life, right? With social media, you have this before you might meet 30, 40 people. Now you're interact with hundreds of thousands of people. So it could be a sample size issue. From what I can see, before there was a diagnostic term for narcissism, they were just the jerk, right? Having that identification is so important. Humans do not do well without a classification. There's a reason why on an airplane, they point at all the exits, right? Because it's been shown that even one repetition of knowing where to go in an emergency will help you out rather than having nothing. So exactly what you're talking about is what I do. I walk into businesses and corporations, say, hey, this is the model you're looking for. And they're like, oh, I kind of already knew that, but I didn't have language for it. And the language for humans is super important because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when you walk into a business, you just point out all the cocks?
That's a cock. That's a cock. Get rid of that cock.
I try not to, but there's a real reason why I'm super big on third-party reporting of violence, not to HR, because here's the thing. If you look at, there's obviously problems in the church. There's problems with the Boy Scouts. Predators are going to go where the prey is. So every scoutmaster isn't evil, but if you want access to children, becoming a scoutmaster is a great job as a predator. Mm-hmm. People are going to look for positions of power in order to get access to what they're looking for. So when human resources, not really a high-level paid position, but you got a lot of power in that position. So what if the human resources person is the one who's harassing you? Who do you talk to?
You just record things on the
Throat
sly and
punch
put it on
'em.
social media.
Throat punch, social media, and social media is a great tool for that. Actually, it really is. Like,
Outing people.
yeah, we have these recording devices, so it's
Okay, so let me ask you a question, because
Of course.
you bring up a great point when you're talking about violence, right? And we've seen a ton of it over the past 2 years. We haven't really seen cultural violence, political violence, ideological violence. What qualifies in your terms as violence? Like, I mean, you do violent de-escalation, but what is violence in your world?
So I'm using the World Health Organization's definition of violence. That's
oh my God, you're going to piss off the entire province of Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Yeah, well,
if you do that.
that's why I guess that's why I travel for work. So
there you go, shitting on Alberta again.
Physical violence, maldevelopment, deprivation, or any kind of control, whether it's physical or emotional. We consider all of those violence. Now,
so you would consider like going after or abusing someone online, you would consider that violent. In some cases, there has been qualification for it.
Sure. Yeah. And I think because the methods you would de-escalate in the real world work the same online, there is some tweaks you need to make. So yeah, because we're trying to classify this as something more than just the kick and the punch, because when you look at like mental health, for example, we're kind of talking about that with the narcissist thing.
Yeah.
When we're looking at mental health, like mental injuries, they don't show, so people can say they don't exist, right? And I was talking to a friend of mine. He has depression. He couldn't get out of bed. And I mean clinical depression, like diagnosed. I don't mean he just feels sad sometimes. Yeah. He has clinical depression. And he's like, I don't know why I can't get out of bed. And I just said to him, yeah, I broke my arm. I don't know why I can't bench press. And he was like, oh, you're right. So we have to look at violence in a lot more ways, because otherwise victims start getting shut down. I have a friend, I will not use their name on the show, but I have a friend, and he was in an abusive relationship. This guy is 6'6" and 280 pounds. Yeah. The person who was abusing him was 5'3". If we use the old definition of violence, he's just a wuss and he gets no support. Nobody can talk to him.
Yeah,
right.
There are so many other ways to manipulate people that don't involve violence. It is a tool, but it is definitely not the only tool. I need more people to know that.
Okay, so go ahead, Locke. Go ahead.
So basically, you don't need to slap the shit out of somebody to abuse them.
Right.
So how do I deal with Dean's abusive behavior towards me on social media?
So you got to set firm boundaries.
Firm boundaries. I don't like it, Dean. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you an example of what I would consider violence. And this happened strangely in Grand Prairie, Alberta. Locke, you know exactly what I'm going to play.
Oh, I thought you were going to use one of your examples of you abusing somebody on social media. That'd be just as fun as this video.
I'm trying really hard not to do that anymore. Like, I haven't told someone to go fuck themselves in a month.
48 hours. Go bullshit.
Yeah, probably. No, I'm serious. I probably haven't told someone to go fuck themselves in about a month. I'm not even joking. I wished I was. No, and because like I see this too, right? But case in point, there's violent rhetoric, there's violent conversations, there are violent moves or violent situations, and I found what happened in Grand Prairie the other day to Christopher Freeland, fairly violent, and I wanted to know if it qualifies. I'm going to run you through a couple of examples, because the part that we as smooth-brained dudes, which I consider myself to not be that smart, is when I see stuff like this, I'm like, what is that? What's the recourse? How do you get on top of something like that as someone who is being treated like shit? You know, someone who's been told, to fuck off or eat shit, or, someone who's been like,
got the hard C. She got the hard C.
She got a lot more than the hard C. She got the hard B. She got all of it. I mean, like it was really fucking crazy. And I know you've seen the video, but I wanted to put this out there for you just so everybody could see it, because I find this to be kind of, it falls along the same lines that we're talking about when it comes to feeling threatened, right? Like, there are different levels and it's all subjective, right? There are a lot of people who are just paranoid and scared, and someone staring at them could be threatening, all that stuff. But where does this qualify, and how do you de-escalate this shit?
Right there. Hurry, that's Christia.
Christia! Yes? What the fuck are you doing in Alberta? You fucking traitorous fucking bitch! Get the fuck out of this province!
You don't belong here.
So, let's say Randy King is in that elevator. What do you do?
I think they nailed it. Like, this is the thing, right? Everybody wants to win. And once you start putting winning in this, it becomes a problem. Remember that I defined self-defense as it affects your day as little as possible. That affected their day as little as possible. If they would have met that with fire to fire, that could have escalated exponentially and changed the whole dynamic. The odds of them running into that person again are low. There's no need to deal with that. So we call that a boundary setting, a no and go. Just nah and then pass, right? Like, do you want to sign this petition? No, and you leave. Our intrinsic need as humans to win kind of becomes the problem with conflict communication, boundary setting, and de-escalation. One of the things we tell people is you have to de-escalate yourself first before you can de-escalate others. There was a threat. The threat was yelling. It did not go physical. He didn't rush. He approached, but he didn't try to hold the door open. So context is always going to be king in this. And honestly, I think that was handled as well as it possibly could have been. There isn't any notes I could give to it, unfortunately.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, because, and this isn't me bragging. This is me knowing myself and knowing how I react in conflict situations. Now, there would have been a beat where I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So there would have been a moment for me to digest the situation, especially if they knew my name. It would have been a 5-second beat, and I would have been out of that elevator and in front of him and telling him to go fucking pound sand.
Right.
Now, I know that's not the right thing to do.
Right.
But how do you, because that's ingrained in me.
Right.
I'm not a violent guy, but if somebody came at me like that, I would stand up to them. And what I've learned in the past, and this is
Take
why
off your glasses first.
This is why I've learned to do this, and this is why I'm comfortable with it. I've learned that if I meet that aggression with the same level of aggression, it quite often will de-escalate them quickly, and it won't go past it, because I've been punched very few times in my life when I've done that.
Sure. So we teach a course called conflict communication, and it kind of deals with the exact thing, where we talk about that need to win. We call it the monkey brain. We use the old triune brain model. It's good for a model, doesn't really work in practice, but it's good to create the language that we're talking about.
Can I just briefly cover that? Yeah, evolutionary psychologists do believe you got 3 different parts of your brain. You got the lizard part of your brain, you have the emotional part of your brain, and then you got the reasoning part. The reasoning part's only been around for the past few thousand years. Anyway, that's what you're talking. The triune parts of the brain. That's what you're talking about. Go ahead.
And the reasoning part of the brain is the slowest moving part of the brain. So Lachlan, what you were talking about is you would get engaged, it would hit that monkey tribal thing, and you would run out there. Now, number one, that's a very dude response. So as a dude, I get it. It's still not like, what, honestly, other than you feeling better about yourself, what would that have accomplished? Right?
You
so
see his face.
So honestly, right? Sure, you're going to feel better, but close the elevator door and leaving accomplished the exact same thing with zero risk of it going physical.
Okay,
so
I understand that. Yeah. If I stand in front of him, there is a possibility that there is going to be violence. I get that, which I'm willing to, like, if he's like that was an aggressive stance. I would have been, that's the risk I would have been able to take.
Yeah.
And don't even try to deny that you would have done the same fucking thing, Dean. I've heard too many stories of you following drivers home with road rage situations.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying I wouldn't. What I'm saying is that what we're introducing here is some self-discipline to self-defense. That's what Randy's talking about. Do you know how fucking impossible that would be for me? If I was in the elevator with that person, I probably would have got my ass kicked, but I guarantee you I would have beat the shit out of at least him. Like, something would have happened. And it would have been the wrong decision at the wrong time that made everything way fucking worse, which is why I'm trying to have Randy on, which is why I was excited to talk to this guy today, because you get into the psychology of self-defense, which really starts right here, right? Yeah. It starts by being a little bit smarter. It starts by employing your ability to reason. And when we see people lash out on Twitter, they're just doing it because they only have the 2 parts of their brain they're working with, which is the emotional and then the lizard part. They don't have the ability to reason to go, fuck, I could care less what Johnny 269 thinks about me because he lives in Pictou, Nova Scotia, and he's got 4 followers. But there are people that will throw it all away. Case in point, same thing with you getting out of that elevator, right? You get out of that elevator and you go, you know what? Fuck you. You enormous piece of shit. You stupid fucking redneck. Take your enormous wife with you and get the fuck out of this building. You don't deserve to be here. You shouldn't talk to me. But then you're doing exactly what he's doing, right? So the ability to reason is gone. You've just said no to the ability to reason, which is really like probably the most important catalyst when you talk about self-defense, is that in the moment saying no to fight or flight, which is like next to impossible, right? For a lot of different people. Love the Rick and Morty mug, by the way. New season comes out this weekend. I know, I'm really excited. But my point is this, is that it really, if I'm not mistaken, Randy, it starts with having a healthy mind in situations like that, as opposed to going, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to grab that redneck by the beard and I'm going to drag him outside and beat him within an inch of his life.
Here's another fallacy of this. So I literally teach this for a living. People hire me all over the world. That's not a brag. I'm leaving in a week, all over. I was at a farmer's market with my wife and my daughter, who are both much smaller than I'm not a small human. So I'm standing there and we're waiting for peas or whatever at the farmer's market for. And a vagrant got in, and he butted in line in front of me. He came in front of me and he's like, he just stood there and looked at me like, what are you going to do? And I teach this. Everything in my head was like, smash this dude. And then I'm like, wait a minute. My wife already is like, hey, you're a goon gone good. Remember, you're calm now. And I don't want my daughter to see me beating up some poor homeless fellow who's trying to get peas faster than me. But honestly, guys, it bothered me all night. It was in my head. That monkey, that was like that.
See, okay, but Randy, Randy, now you're
his ass. You should have done Randy, this. Now he showed you up.
That's my answer. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to. You caught me off guard. What good is it going to do? It's going to keep me from feeling like I didn't do something, which is to me worse than not getting into an escalation. That's the point, right? And that's why I'm saying you must run into this in your teaching all the time, because I'm that guy too. I've told a story about being in Tim Hortons and a guy jumped in line and I confronted him, and on his way out he was like, because there was 4 police officers and I yelled at him right in the middle of the Tim Hortons, and then he followed me to my car and said, you're lucky there's cops in there. And I said, why? Because you're going to do what? Let's go right now. And he got in his truck and he stormed away. But I probably would have got my ass handed to me. And the only thing that didn't, but I tell you, if I hadn't have said anything, I would have been chewing on that for 2 fucking days. You wanted to, I very rarely get kept up at night. Mm-hmm. Very rarely do I not sleep. I sleep like a princess, and I get into conflict situations all the time. But that not doing something, Randy, I'm telling you right now, that would have fucking kept me up for 2 nights.
Yeah. Sure. That's the point of the course, is to get rid of that. So number one, let's point this out. These are dude problems. Anytime I talk to a woman, this never comes up. They're never like, oh, I should have. Like, that never, ever comes up. They're like, yeah, of course I wouldn't do that. Lachlan, if that guy had a knife in his pocket or something, or like, this could have went anywhere. I have been stabbed in real life, knife in my body. I don't recommend it.
Where'd you get stabbed? Stomach?
I got stabbed once in the face and once in the leg, and then once by a fork right in my forearm, all separate stories. So when we're looking at this, when it comes to violence...
Okay, can we just stop just for a second? And then I want to let you continue. Just so you know, Locke, this guy's been stabbed a bunch of times, and he's, if I'm not mistaken, you started as a bouncer, and when you first started as a bouncer, which got you into self-defense, if I'm not mistaken, you got your ass kicked a whole bunch, and you're like, fuck, I got to learn how to do this properly, right? Like, that's the catalyst for what you're talking about. Like, this guy has been in it several times.
Yeah, my first, so I got a black belt in Taekwondo, and I'm like, oh, I'm Batman now. I wasn't. And so I went to a bar, and an out-of-shape old, I say old man, he's probably younger than I am now, but an out-of-shape old biker beat the tar out of me, and all my black belt meant nothing. And that was kind of the start of this journey. So that's what I'm trying to state, is that, yeah, sure, it was bad in your head, but for me, at least in my story, Lachlan, the repercussions of my daughter seeing me go to that place and smash somebody was not worth the, like, I can suck up not sleeping for 2 nights for the mental health of my family. Right. And that's what this is about. So many people, they say this stuff like, oh, I would do anything for my family. They make it so romantic, but you won't not yell at somebody for your family. Okay. Right. Like that gets.
Well, there's an off chance someone might call you a pussy after. Right. We need to avoid that.
We can't have that.
Or in Lachlan's mind, and I'll come to his defense. Like, dude, we're all the same guy.
You're
I get
wired
it.
the same way as me.
Totally, dude. Totally. Do you know how many people I followed home for not coming to a full stop at a 4-way? Like, just fucking ridiculousness. I'm like, I'm teaching that person a lesson. I'm going to go 20 miles out of my way just to be an asshole. I mean, that was years ago. Kind of, but you know what I mean. Like you all
did
evolve.
it this summer.
No, I didn't. I haven't done that, and it's fucking hard. Like I had this dude the other day honk at me because I'm in the turn lane, which is a 2-lane highway, but it's a turn lane, and he wanted me to move up, but there's a car in front of me because he was in a hurry to turn. I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm going to sit here now for the entire green light. I'm not even moving. I don't care who I fucking inconvenience behind me, and then he followed me to my house, and I got out, and thank God my 16-year-old was there. He goes, fuck off. He says to the guy, and my 16-year-old's a big kid, and my 22-year-old's a big kid, and they're like 3-4 guys got out of the car, and the guy had his daughter in the back of the car, right? And you're like, oh my God, like, what did I do, right? Like to escalate the situation. But there are so many different examples of this in everyday life where we go fight or flight. And I've seen it over the past 2 years where it's like someone insulted me. My emotion has been triggered. And so I'm going to dig up the emotional lizard part of my brain, and I'm going to fight back to get my feeling, to get this feeling of like Schadenfreude out, because it's Schadenfreude season, which you can, by the way, get the shirt at the Dean Blundell shop. Just go to the header at the top of the webpage, shop. It's great. We still got a bunch of shirts there for Diane Tarian, supporting parn.ca. Anyway, my point is this, is that I'm the same. I'm just like you. I'm just like Randy. And we're all talking about like techniques on how to not be that fucking idiot who makes your life immeasurably worse, has to file police reports, has to fucking go through all kinds, instead of just focusing on what you do and the discipline of being able to use your brain in a situation like that, where you calm yourself down. That's where I go wrong. When I know that there's trouble because of the way I'm wired, it's like the inside just bubbles up and the gears start going. And I'm like, that's it. Who gets it first? Where is the first person?
This is the argument I hear all the time. We're wired to do this. Guys, you're also wired to run down deer with a sharp stick, but you adapted to the grocery store pretty quick. So, like, there's lots of other ways for you to do this. The benefit of being a human is we don't have to always use our base instincts. We can train ourselves out of those things. And that's the point of the teaching, right? Like, when we do the communication, we talk about de-escalation. We have it's a 4-hour program. We go into the roots of it. We go into why you're getting upset, how to de-escalate yourself. Because the more education, the more knowledge I can give you, the more you can classify it, the better you're going to do in those situations.
Okay, so
the only reason why I'm still listening is because at some point in your life, you had to pull a fork out of your arm.
Yep, sure did. I actually didn't have to. So I'll give you a quick Coles notes on it. We had a guy in the back of the bar. He reached behind him, grabbed a fork. He came at me. I put my hands up, and we call a startle flinch. It's something we teach. He got me in the arm. I looked at it, and I looked at him, and then my bouncer buddy tackled me because I was going to just destroy that guy. So, because the police were coming and yada, yada, yada. But if you weren't around in Edmonton during the oil boom, it was a wild time to be a bouncer, and that's when I was bouncing.
Yeah. They had money, and they liked cocaine.
Yeah. I can make $200,000 and have a grade 10 education. All life decisions are great at that point, for sure.
And every time you're not at work, you're at the bar, and so you add that fuel to the mix too, right? Like the alcohol business is, dude. Like, there's so many different aspects to this that I'm like percolating as we're kind of having that discussion. We'll get to it in a sec. Locke, you wanted to ask a question? Sorry, I didn't mean.
Well, no, I just want to take this in a different direction. I mean, I think I would be. I think you would have we would be staying after class, Dean and I, for one of your sessions.
Probably.
We'd be a lot of work because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea that that I gotta let that guy butt in line. I'm sorry. I can't get past it. I'm sorry,
dude,
Randy.
I can't believe how triggered I am by someone coming up to a line at Tim Hortons or Starbucks or Winners and sliding in like 4 people in front of you. It's like, I get this hyper focus where it's like all I can look at is the back of that person's head, and I'm having this internal dialogue that, should someone say something to them, if I walk up to that person, will it be petty? And then I have to do the fucking time math in my head. Listen, you knew you were in line. That person doesn't fucking matter. They have to live with how shitty they are at the end of the day. They know exactly what they did. They might feel like they got it over us, but it doesn't change how much I want to fucking drag them outside and slap them around a little bit. Like, it just doesn't change.
I got 30 stories of me confronting people that butted in line. And again, like I said, I would have a really hard time with you trying to convince me that that's not a good idea.
That's fair.
And again, it is tough.
Though.
I'm not saying what you teach, Randy. I'm not saying what you teach isn't important. It definitely is. But we need to let's shift gears here.
Sure.
You live in Edmonton. You teach this to different businesses, and from what I've heard, you're busier now than you've ever been because everybody forgot how to act around each other because they've been working from home.
Correct.
So all of a sudden, Randy King is a very popular person to bring into the business. And you not only do it here in Alberta, but you do this around the world. What are some of the more interesting companies that you've worked for with respect to this training?
So a lot of the people that bring me in to start, because I started off as a martial artist, are martial arts schools. But for example, we just got hired by the city of Prague. I'm going to be a keynote speaker at an international summit on violence. As we move through this, because we're transitioning into this proactive space, we've had companies here in Edmonton. I've worked with Stantec and 3M. Nobody like super big yet, but this is the direction that we're going. Workplace violence is such a important topic and also a hot topic right now because, like you said, right, people interacting like this is great. Like it's different in person. And I think one of the most important things here is the goal for me isn't to convince you. The goal for me is to show you the information that you're a grown-up, make your own decisions, because you need to know what the goal of the encounter is.
There we go with the fucking grown-up tag again. Son of a bitch, Randy. Have you been talking to my wife?
But no, it's true, right? Like, you're all going to make your own choices. My job is not, like, my teaching is not prescriptive. It's not, if this happens, do this. It's, here's the education, here's the models, you do what you want. And we have seen people, we've taken quote unquote alpha males, had a 3-hour conversation with them, and they were like, oh my goodness. Like, for example, I teach just the bouncers. That's what I do. It's one of the things I do. And you think you're a hard room, Lachlan? Bouncers are a hard room. Hey, don't fight all the time. Like, okay, bro. So it's, but they learned, right? They've learned it's just easier to do it this way. And it's not me convincing you. It's if you're a reasonable person, once we put the data in front of you, you make the shift. I'm not there to sell you nothing. I'm just there to show you all the research we have, and then you can make a choice.
So can you take me through, like, you know, some of the things that you're seeing now that you're going back to work? Obviously, the pandemic put a hold on symposiums and seminars about de-escalating and nonviolent solutions to conflict and stuff like that, which we could all fucking use right now, if you ask me. But what are you seeing now that you didn't see prior to the pandemic with people, relationships, conflict resolution? Are people, is there, because the way I look at it is, if everybody's wired like us, and I have a feeling a lot of people are, where it's like, no, you're not going to take that dignity from me. No, you're not going to, and you've had 2 years to bake at home and, you know, make your coffee and not be interrupted and not be like everybody's living in this comfy lifestyle, and then they get the paranoia going back to work. What is it that's driving conflict at work specifically?
I think it's exactly that, right? The straw that broke the camel's back is one of the biggest causes of violence. Like, when you and your wife get into a fight over the dishes, sure, it might be about the dishes, but it's often about a bunch of other stuff. And that was the thing that made you snap. So while people are being forced back to work, I think the two biggest things we're seeing, number one is lack of personal space they had before, because their entire environment was self-selected, right? It was their house with their stuff and their family, and they chose all of this. And now they're being forced back to a place they feel that isn't their environment, right? After 2 years of messaging, stay inside, stay inside, stay inside, that's still going to be in your head. The energy they use to ask us to stay inside is not the energy they're using to get us back outside. So there's a social aspect to that. Anxiety is through the roof, especially social anxiety. I'm a pretty friendly guy. I had some trouble getting back out on the road the first time last year when I did my tour in the US, because I had done this interaction, right? It's totally different in real space. I always like to tell people about my first fight. And the thing that sticks with me the most isn't the loss. It isn't being hit by rings.
The fork?
It was the BO of the dude. Nobody talks about that. Nobody says the dude's gonna stink. Like, and it's in my head. Like, I still know what that person smells like, and that's weird.
Yeah.
So, like, going out there into the real world, your senses are being hit differently. But honestly, I'm seeing a lot of anxiety, a lot of social issues, and also just a lot of like interaction, like small talk, which I'm not a fan of. Small talk is kind of dying. Honestly, it's kind of dying because because like before it'd be like 6 hours of work, 8 hours of work. Oh, how's the weekend? Blah, blah, blah. You didn't do that. You jumped on your Zoom meeting. You jumped off.
Yeah.
So people are having trouble finding those bridges that we had. And we take it for granted that's going to be there all the time.
That's
right?
very interesting.
Have you seen anybody punch their boss yet? No.
Yeah, I'm sure. I put money down that bosses have been punched for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of bosses get punched. My buddy got slapped the other day. He owns a business out in BC. Just one of his employees slapped him across the face. I'm like, why? And he's like, I don't know, man. I was sitting there talking to him about like coming into work and like how many days a week he wants to work. And he started to get frustrated. And he's like, you look frustrated, he says to the guy. And the guy turned around and slapped him in the face because he's like, you look frustrated. He goes, you don't have to fucking point it out. Then he slapped him in the face.
I would take 10 straight punches to the face over one slap. It's just nothing like so.
Right?
Randy's de-escalation trait. If you slap me, I'm fighting you. I don't care if my daughter's watching. That's gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
so
me too.
It's such a demoralizing thing. But that's what's happening, right? Is people feel like that can happen. Oh, hello, people.
Yeah. Hi, we got Lachlan's entire family in the background.
Hello.
Nice to see you guys. Good to see you.
Hello.
Yeah, that's good. That's okay. Great heat.
Hi,
great,
Monkey Bird. Give me a kiss.
Great heater on your future son-in-law.
Don't encourage that.
Donald.
Don't.
Yeah, he looks good.
Speaking of slapping.
Yeah, it's very Inspector Poirot.
Honey, I'm glad you're home. I
Great to
heard
see
you from the airport.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? We just had a nice little family reunion there. Okay, so let's incorporate the slap into the next video example I'd like to give you. So it's a video that went out yesterday. I laughed my ass off. I'm a big fan of violence when it's like in situations like this. There is some violence that I'm like, oh, that's
Randy's just like, there's so many things. He's just like, I went on this podcast.
No, guys, sometimes violence is the answer. Sometimes it is. I'm not saying it's not all the time.
Why didn't we get there first?
Well,
we could have.
It's not the answer at Tim Hortons.
I've been flopping. I've been flop sweating for the last 20 minutes. I'm so anxious about the fact that I've been doing this wrong my whole life.
No, it's wrong in Tim Hortons lineup. I'm going to tell you that right now. Yeah.
If someone butting in line, it's wrong. Someone slaps you across the face, it's right. Case in point, this is the Tampa Bay Lightning game. There seems to be a discussion between one guy and the husband and wife team where the husband and wife team are like, no, these are our seats. And then the guy just gets up and slaps him out of entitlement. And then it's on. I want you to pay special attention to the young lady in this.
Is this new?
Yeah, dude, who absolutely, like, it just came out, even though it's like 5 months old. I don't know where fucking these people hide these things, but I love the video. But I want you to watch the lack of de-escalation here. But then is violence the answer for this woman who beat the shit out of this guy? Watch this.
Oh, shit, this is more exciting.
See, guy gets in there, and then watch the young lady here. She's like, fuck this. Boom, 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 boom. And gives him a kick in the face just for fun, and then kettles him and points at his wife. She's like, you're next, she says to the wife. And then here comes He-Man, where he's like, all right, that's enough. And I want you to check out the dude's face who started this whole thing with a slap. Look at what she did to him. That is fucking awesome. He loved it. What did you see there from a technical standpoint?
That's just your basic social violence. So that was pecking order stuff. Hey, that's my seat. Don't go there kind of thing. And this is very common. And this is why, like, so that's not a self-defense situation in any stretch of the imagination. The slap was there. The way we would argue it's a self-defense situation is when the threat is ended, you stop. That person that became the threat. So there was also 2-on-1 disparity of force, but that guy, so this is common, right? They're barking back and forth. This guy, I don't know how good that beer is there because he's super into this situation. I don't know what's going on there internal chemical wise. They hit him. So there's That's all it is. This is basic social violence. This isn't going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to get pressed. There's probably no charges here in any way whatsoever. But
you're next. I love that.
But did this woman take your course? It sure looks like she did, because she dummied the fuck out of that guy.
she absolutely did not. Although again, right, he did put hands on him. There was like, it's not like this was a misunderstanding. There could be a communication. He jumped right past everything and slapped, and that's illegal. That's assault. He assaulted that person.
Yeah.
So you do have the right to put your hands back on them, but then again, there's going to be a point where.
Well, there's the question I have for you, and Locke, this would be really, you can put this in the back of your mind too. When someone, let's say someone lays their hand on Locke, and Locke's like, that's it. Like, is he better off just to say, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this, not interested? In the big scheme of things, even though he never could do this, and neither could I. I'm using him as an example, but put me in the fucking same Lachlan, I'm going to ruin that guy boat. Sure. Because I would. It would be impossible for me to walk away from that. But where's the trigger? Like, when do you know, okay, listen, I got to get in here, I got to do something, or like, because that slap, they all had the chance to respond and not do anything, call security down and have that fucking loser removed, and instead they chose violence, which I appreciated.
Yeah, and it's so, number one, I'd like to state it's always going to be contextual, right? That slap done in private when you're trying to get away from somebody a physical response might not be the best option. But using this exact segment of this, when somebody goes hands on, it's going to be up to you to make that decision. So I want to do this. I think it's necessary. And in that case, it probably was, right? Like, the slap happened. The person was clearly just trying to bring it on. There's no way around it. Yes, obviously not putting hands on somebody is going to be better. When we look at the aftermath of violence, something not talked about by a lot of people is like, this is in the US, correct?
Yeah.
So civil suits are a real thing. So there could be civil litigation, even if there's no legal litigation. So it's obviously better to not engage physically. That's always going to be better, because that will be easier to explain if you are trying to go into a legal situation. You want the force to match the danger, right? So the force you use has to match the danger. So if let's play the what if game. So guy slaps him, and then dude the jersey pulls a knife out and starts poking him. That's not acceptable. No. Right? Because the force doesn't parallel the danger that is happening. So that's part of the course, right? Like I said, 80-20, 80% proactive, 20% going hands-on. That's the whole point of this. In that case, like, I don't see that going anywhere. It was kind of insane that both of them went. And also I think he might have done more damage to his lady than the guy, because he like knocked her to the ground to get at him, which is also very funny. It shows that
he can't punch either. I was watching him punch. He's like these wild swings, like cartoon punches.
Yeah.
And she got down there and she was like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And I'm like, that I would take that person everywhere with me if I could. She looks like a lot of fun.
The thing too, like, I will point this out because I do get into conflict situations all the time, because I still have that part of my brain, even though I've been trying to train myself otherwise, that somebody put me on the planet to tell everybody what the real reason and the truth was, right? Like, fuck, I'm such a dick. But anytime I've ever gone into a violent situation where it's gone to some level of like punching or whatever, I have never fared well. There's not one physical altercation that I've been in where I left going, yeah, I did okay there. No, every single time I got my ass handed to me. Yeah. And a lot of times it was from a smaller guy.
Right.
But
it's mind-blowing to me the amount of people that will run into a situation where you could potentially die because they're just dudes. Like, the amount of people that die from secondary impacts of one-hit punches, right? Somebody gets punched, your head hits the concrete, secondary impact, they have a massive head injury and they die, is none. So going into a situation where death is on the table, and not just death, right? Like being paralyzed, being so I have very bad head injuries from competing. And I had to go through speech therapy to get the ability to talk properly again. Like, all of this is on the table when it comes to violence, but because our emotions and our egos get so involved, we throw that threat assessment out the window, right? We're like, I'm going to go at that person, but one lucky punch, what if he hit him, he slipped on beer, and he $1 million babied himself on the arm of the chair, right?
Worst movie ever.
As soon as you go hands-on, there is
Finally
that
has a father figure, and then she dies.
Yeah, that was rough.
Movie's over. Oh, no, it's not over yet. We go back to the hotel or back to the hospital, and he unplugs her and kills her. Great ending. Fucking awful movie.
Wasn't the happiest ending ever, was it?
Oh my God, I hated that movie.
Listen, Randy, I want to thank you for your time today. We, had some fun, but we also talked about de-escalating. And listen, I want to remind everybody, Randy King Live is where you can find him at Randy King Live. I know you didn't hear anything. Don't worry about it. But like, I will say this, as difficult as it is in the environment and the cultural war that we seem to be all going through, it is always better. Not always as fun.
Slap the shit out of somebody.
To walk away.
Can I leave
walk
with
away?
One thought experiment before I go? Just one thought experiment.
Absolutely.
Lachlan, myself, all of us kind of grew up in the same generation, which was we had playground fights. Those were okay. We learned what the rules of violence were. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
That is no longer happening anymore. So why I think this stuff is so important. If this was 1979, I'd be like, yeah, throw a punch at him, give him the spanking. Maybe his parents did, and community spankings exist. There's a reason for them. Now that people are not testing themselves with violence, they don't know what it's like. They know what it's like getting punched in the face. The older you get, the more scared you become, which is why we're seeing a rise in weapons being used and people using multiple numbers. So a lot of us are using the rules that no longer exist. People carry things in their pockets. People roll much deeper than they used to. So I want everybody to understand that maybe you grew up in a dust up at the bar, buy each other a drink. That doesn't happen so much anymore. The people that are coming up now have no experience of violence, and they're so scared of being punked on social media that they will escalate to the highest level of violence as fast as possible. And a lot of the people who grew up in we know the rules, they're not ready for that.
I have a rule, and I've said this out loud, and people think I'm kidding. I have a list of people that I don't trust. And there's like, if you own a cat and if you don't like chili, and there's all these funny ones, right? But one of them, and I've said this out loud multiple times.
Mustaches.
I've said, if you've never had a fist fight with your father or your stepfather, and people go, what? Like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't trust you if you didn't go fisticuffs at 15 in the backyard with the old man.
You trust me a lot then.
Me too.
I trust you a lot, right? And everybody looks at me. Most of the millennials look at me like, what? You fought your stepfather? I'm like, what? You didn't?
You never fought with your own dad? What are you, a fucking loser? Everybody got in a fist fight with their dad. It's like a rite of passage.
Randy, I have a question. How do people get a hold of you? Like, if they were interested in bringing you into, I mean, you travel, you're going to Prague, you'll go Eastern Canada. This is something you do. You just did a US tour where you speak and you do public speaking, but you also go into businesses and you say, okay, listen, let's have a conversation. Where are we at, everybody? La, 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 la. And you sit down and you break down conflict problems and situations in the place of employment. So how do people find you?
Like Dean said, website, randykinglive.com. And that's all my social media too. Unless you're on TikTok, my daughter will scream at me. We have a TikTok called @Defense Talks with Dad, Canadian spelling of defense. So DEFENCE, where my daughter asks me questions and then I respond to the questions about self-defense. So get a hold of us anywhere on any of those channels. I'm very easily accessible. My phone is never more than a foot away from me.
Awesome. Randy, listen, dude, appreciate you. A great deal.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we're one of the more fun people that you'll get a chance to do this with, probably. Yeah.
We can be fun.
Slightly
just not
professional,
off the line.
mostly fun. Yeah. Slightly educational, slightly professional, but a good time. Thanks for doing this, brother. Great to see you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
Take care, Randy.
RandyKingLive.com is where you can find Randy. He's about de-escalation. He's about nonviolent solutions to conflict, which is super important, which is something that is very difficult for guys like you and me.
Did everyone figure out how I met him? Or should I tell that story again?
No, please don't. No, just through your buddy Mike would have been good. That was a 7-minute explanation to go. I met him through my friend Mike. 7 minutes and 21 seconds. I timed it because you're like, well, here's the story. And I'm like, fuck, here we go. Here we go. This is like, there's Mike, and he didn't call me, and then he called me, and he ran for office. He didn't win, and then he disappeared, and then I think he's left-handed. I think it was kind
of an interesting story because he disappeared out of my life. And then the phone rings, and it's like, hey, you got to put Randy on your podcast. And I'm like, do you want to go for a beer? He goes, not really. And then hung up on me. So I thought it was funny. It just took a while to get there.
Yeah. It sure did. Speaking of taking a while to get there, before we move on to Donald Trump going to jail, because he's going to go to jail, I just wanted to let you know one thing. It was being honest about our emotional selves today. I would eat this sandwich from Arby's, the prime rib cheesesteak. I just wanted to let you know. It came out yesterday.
I will be eating that sandwich from Arby's.
Yeah, I've long since shit all over Arby's, and I want to apologize today because I saw this, and I'm like, I would eat that. I would absolutely eat the prime rib cheesesteak sandwich, 573 calories if you're just having the sandwich. Doesn't matter if you're going to eat this, you're not concerned about. But I just wanted to make a humble apologies to Arby's because there's probably a good chance I'm having this sandwich tonight, and I wouldn't, in all fairness, I wouldn't be able to like legitimately live with myself if I went to Arby's and didn't do the apology to Arby's, because I have been unfair to Arby's. And again, this comes from that whole thing about me being an asshole about things I've never tried, right? And I'm going to try Arby's. I'm going to get that sandwich
Look
today.
at this, everybody. Pumpkin spice has made Dean a better person.
It really has.
More accepting to the world around him.
I don't know if that's the case, but I would eat that sandwich. I am going to Arby's.
I will say this.
I am going to get that sandwich.
You know, I'm the one who started End Arby's Shame, the hashtag online. I'm a big proponent of Arby's, but I will say this. You need to go buy that sandwich, get it in the drive-thru, and get home.
Yeah.
You're close to a toilet that you're comfortable with. Light things up.
Well, it's got a lot of vegetables in it. Like it's got peppers. It's got onions. It's got cheese. It's got some sauce.
There's a lot of things going on there. I can feel my guts just turning right now, just looking at that, and I want one so bad.
Well, how about this one? Lynn shared with this. Speaking of food, I just wanted to bring this up. Lynn shared this with us in her DMs today. Ryan Lindley from the Lynn's Report. He's like, get a load of this, guys. This is a cheeseburger that has bun, patty, Oreo cookies, patty, cheese, Oreo cookies, bun. I would eat that too. I wouldn't want to. I would be concerned with the person that came that and I would probably. But look at the fucking this is what people are doing to food now. And now that I'm in this, I'm gonna try it. I'm not gonna shit on it. I can't shit on this either. And I watched you eat Oreos with salami the other day, and I'm like, fuck, I guess.
That was actually surprisingly good. You can ask Grant, because the mistake I made is I ate that in front of you guys, and you didn't have the ability to share with me. So I got a lot of hate from you too. And the whole time Lynn's is going, he's lying. It's not good. But it actually was good. I took it to work, and even Jimmy, who's not a sweets guy, he's more of a savory guy. He gets up in the morning and makes a hoagie, and that's his breakfast, right? And Grant had it, and Grant goes, that's oddly good. We did it the next day on the locker room because I wanted somebody to give me some,
someone to make you feel not as weird as you felt when you were eating Oreos and salami. Right?
It wasn't awful. It wasn't. That I'm surprised, to be honest with you, is even a thing. Who thinks of that? And you know what? I think the melting part there, that's probably the icing from the Oreo cookie, right?
I don't know what it is. It looks, I would eat it though. I don't know
Christine's
why.
got a point though. Stop. Oreos are really good just on their own. Have you ever jumped into the flavored Oreo shit? Because that's crazy, man. They have so many different, I had no idea. A couple years ago, we started talking about this. And people were sending us examples, and still to this day, somebody will send me a snapshot of it. They'll be in the States and they'll send me a picture on social media where I saw these are donut flavored or whatever, or they're cotton candy flavored Oreos. They have a bunch of them, but they have different ones around the world too. Japanese love crazy shit.
Yeah, they put Japanese and I think people in Thailand and stuff like that. They put vegetables in their ice cream. So
Oh, really? Okay. I don't know if I'd do that, but
corn. Yeah, they put corn in their ice cream.
What's that green paste? Wasabi.
Wasabi. Yeah.
There's apparently a wasabi flavored Oreo cookie. Yeah,
I would try it. I'm shitting on it in my mind, but I would eat it in real life. I would give it a go.
Somebody brought those over to the house and said, "Here, I got a joint and a bag of wasabi Oreo cookies. You're going out to the back deck. That's your 100%. Night."
Yeah, absolutely. And I have the freedom to do that, unlike Donald Trump in the next few months. Dude, we talked about it to open up the show. This guy is so fucked. It is unbelievable. Such a great picture.
That's such a funny picture.
Because he can't take his outdoor hair to jail with him, right? Like he's not.
Did you see the meme?
Piece.
Did you see the meme of him sitting on a phone on the other side of glass in an orange jumpsuit, and Obama is across the glass from him, and he's on the other end of the phone, and Donald Trump goes, I told you you were going to jail," and Obama goes, "This dummy, I'm here to visit you. You're the one in jail." I saw that today. Fucking funny.
Well, it's fallen apart, and we said this like a couple of months ago and I think I even said it on the show where I was like, what has to happen for the rest of MAGA Nation? Because the bleed through that we see up here is the chaotic MAGA fucking influence, right? It really is freedom, no rules, do what you want, accuse everybody else of the shit that you're doing, the projection, all that stuff. So he spent the last 2 weeks since the raid at Mar-a-Lago going, this is government overreach. I'm a political prisoner. It's political persecution, all that other shit. Well, he asked for a special master to look at a bunch of shit that they took out of Mar-a-Lago. That special master is someone who would just run out the clock on this trial. So the DOJ actually filed a report yesterday. The report that they filed was 33 pages long. Let me just kind of get into some of the details with you real quick while we're here, because this is fascinating. This is the summary of the argument against Donald Trump. The plaintiff's motion to appoint a special master, enjoin further review of seized material, and require the return of seized items fails for multiple independent reasons. As an initial matter, the former president lacks standing to seek judicial relief over insight as to the presidential records because they do not belong to him. Do you know why? Because he's no longer the fucking president. The Presidential Records Act makes clear that the United States has complete ownership, possession, and control of them. Furthermore, this court lacks jurisdiction to adjudicate the plaintiff's Fourth Amendment challenge of the search warrant and his arguments for returning or suppressing material seized. For those reasons and others, the plaintiff has shown no basis for the court to grant injunctive relief. The plaintiff is not likely to succeed on merits. He will suffer no injury or absent an injunction, let alone irreparable injury. And the harms to the government and the public would far outweigh any benefit to the plaintiff of appointing some guy, which is a special master. He wants some dude to be appointed.
We don't have anything like that in Canada.
Nothing.
Do we?
To go through and look at all the documents the FBI seized and say, oh, those belong to Donald Trump. Because there is so much shit that they took out of Mar-a-Lago, not just like the documents that are all top secret, which, as you can see, are here on the floor that they laid out. This is either in his bedroom or in his office, saying this is secret material, top secret material. A lot of the different stuff that came out of there was not just like top secret communications with other governments, dirt on the French president. It was also, and they said this today, locations of spy satellites that he could have sold to the other government, locations, methods, and sources of spies that work on behalf of the United States for the government,
people that are overseas.
So here's where it gets interesting is, you remember a few months ago when they're like, oh, the FBI took 15 boxes of top secret material out of Mar-a-Lago. Remember that? And then they went back and they had to do a fucking thing where they knocked on his door and said, hey, we're coming in whether you like it or not. That was the last one about two and a half weeks ago. Yeah. They signed off on a document. His lawyers, by the way, which are hilarious. One's a parking attendant lawyer. The other one's a real estate lawyer because you can't find anybody to fucking represent him. His lawyers signed off saying they had given everything to the FBI. Well, not only did they not do it, they signed a piece of paper saying they did it. So it's effectively obstruction of justice, number one. And number two, what they found were sources, methods of spies, satellite spies, all that stuff around the world, along with 320 some other documents. And those 320 some other documents don't belong to him. And he had said, no, that is it. We've signed a piece of paper. You know, when you get a release form, right, where it's like, I swear to God, I've given you absolutely everything I have. Anything else, if I forget, I'll tell you. But you can sue me, and I know I'm in deep shit because my lawyers are signing off on this, saying that I've given you everything. Well, he didn't. And the reason why they went back is because apparently there was an informant on the inside that was like, okay, guys, hey, listen.
You didn't get everything.
Not only did you not get anything, the most damning shit, like locations of spies, spy satellites, etc., are in lockup in his desk, in a private compartment in his desk, and in his wife's closet. So that's what we're seeing here. There's a picture.
They got
either
another
on the
3
floor-
boxes.
three boxes, 320 different documents, top secret. And it is so bad. They had George Conway on, who was married to Kellyanne Conway. You remember Kellyanne Conway? Remember that beautiful lady?
He hates
odd number.
He hates Trump. Are they
really
divorced, didn't they?
No, they're still together, which is
They're
fucking
still together.
frightening. Well, if you looked at him, he's kind of troll-like, and she's like got a decent body, so he's just probably hanging on for the sex. That's what I'm thinking. But either way, I want you to watch his reaction and the explanation. I'm not doing it any justice. On CNN last night, you can get angry and say, oh, fuck CNN. I don't care. This is all legitimate information. This is all factual information. But I want you to watch this guy's face when he's going through it with Donnie Lemon. And he's like, this is fucking unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. This is why I think he's going to jail.
Even
Watch
ask
this.
for a special master knowing what the evidence is.
Look at his face.
It's insane. They asked for the Justice Department to punch them in the face, and that's what the Justice Department did in this brief. As Elliot points out, they talk about obstruction. These documents were moved around from room to room, and then they actually show us the certification. I don't think we've seen that before. The certification from Trump's lawyers that said, hey, there were no more documents, no more classified documents left here, in response to a subpoena. They gave a red weld of documents back, and it turned out, and they certified that's it. There's all the responsive documents we have, and it turned out there were. And that there were no documents anywhere other than in that storage room. Turned out there were documents in his office. There were documents all over the place, and tons of them. I mean, they have. This factual recitation has him dead to rights. There's just no question about it, and it explains a lot today about what we were seeing Donald Trump truthing out on his social media platform that's failing. He was basically just freaking out all day, and the reason is this evidence. This evidence just shows he's guilty as sin. He did this.
Evan,
he hid these documents. He had the lawyers lie about it. It's incredible.
Ha ha ha. I know. You're like, yeah, I've been here six years now. Been here. We've been doing this whole dance about him going.
I
to jail
need to
for
see him in
6
handcuffs.
Years. I know. Me too.
I'm just not going to be happy that system down there, which is so broken on so many levels and is so wrong, and there's just daily examples of marginalized people being taken advantage of, people with money getting away with bullshit. It is a constant flood of inequality.
Yeah.
And until I see
Makes
them
crazy,
putting
right?
him,
it's fucking unfair.
putting his head down with his arms behind his back and putting him into a vehicle to take him to prison, I am not going to be convinced that orange dick is going to see any justice, I'm sorry, and I know that will inflame a lot of people that desperately want that to happen. I can't see it happening. And the problem is, you talk about, you use some very strong language to describe the fact that this guy is done. Like, he is so guilty. All right.
Fox said it today. Everybody said it. New York Times, Murdoch papers are saying it today. Everybody's saying it today that he is toast. In terms of guilt, what happens after that guilt gets seated, or we see exactly what he's done and we go through a trial, or they lay out all the top secret shit that he was keeping, they think for leverage or to sell to other governments, or to leverage stuff like this where, like, hey, they got me on a couple things. All I have to do is tell them I've got locations of all the secret spy satellites that we got up in the orbit. So fuck, if you better be careful. Like, whatever we find out from this, his guilt is overwhelming, right? Like, just the what they're laying out in terms, and it isn't just the regular players. Like, it's not MSNBC, CBS, NBC, Raw Story, CNN. It's Fox, it's the Times, it's the Post, it's everybody. Like, literally everybody's like, ooh, yeah. And to the point where, like, all the regular cats that used to support him go, this is bullshit, other than the crazies like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, who are still like, this is like the worst. Like everybody's going like this. Ooh, fuck. Like maybe we're not. They're scrubbing Trump from like Dean, Senate people running for election in the midterms are like scrubbing him and his support for him and MAGA from on their websites. Like it's on. And when you're starting to see people walk away from him that need him and need that base, go, fuck, we can't be anywhere around espionage, obstruction of justice of an investigation. We can't be anywhere near it. It's like fucking heavy because these guys ruined themselves for his reputation and access to his mailing list and the money and the support that he has from all the fucking crazies. Like, you know, and I think we said this a couple months ago, where I'm like, all we got to do is tag that guy. If that guy goes down, you're going to see the dumbing of that entire movement, right? No matter what happens. And we're seeing it now.
But the problem is, no matter what kind of language you use to describe the situation that he is in, there's 50% of that population, and maybe it's dwindling a bit, that ultimately believe that
this is a setup.
That it's a setup, that he's not, that he's innocent. And here's the problem. A lot of people hear that and go, come on, how could they think that? Well, there's also a large chunk of people that believe, and when I say a large chunk of people, I mean fucking hundreds of thousands of people in the United States of America, that John F. Kennedy is alive and is going to come walking out of his coffin, and he's going to run as a running mate with Trump in the next election. They believe that.
Oh, those people, who gives a fuck about them? I'm talking about the people that are like, I'm Republican, I'm just turning a blind eye, I want the same things he wants because I'm a selfish prick, didn't want to get vaccinated, I love deregulation, all that stuff. Like, for them, it's on. I'm not talking about the same crazy fucking lunatic that's like, he's Jesus Christ reincarnated. I'm not talking about those people. But you know what the fucking funny part of this is? Prior to becoming president, he said he was going to turn the screws on Hillary Clinton for presidential record stuff. And he's the guy that actually tightened the laws to the point where they're actually going after him and they're able to use, new policies, new laws to fuck him over. Like this is from 6 years ago when he was running. Watch this.
In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. No one will be above the law.
Yeah, and then we get look at all that stuff on his bedroom floor. Fucking wild.
He did, you know what? The one thing that he did do, he did a lot of smart things. Like he was very, very strategic with how he went about like putting the judges in. Like there was quite a few things that he did in his 4 years that you look back on and you go, wow, like that was. And it was all for nefarious reasons.
Yeah, prescient. Prescient.
Yeah.
Like he knew what he was doing and why he was doing what he had to do because he knew he was going to get caught.
He spent his whole life in court.
Well,
he will start a project, get the money, build something, and then he doesn't pay any of the contractors, and then just spends all his time like in court, like hundreds, possibly thousands of lawsuits over the years.
That's one of the things that's incredible about him is how he welcomes that as a strategy, right? Like if you've ever been to court or been sued, it's not a lot of fun. You're like, fuck, I wish this would go away. He's like, no, I'm going to use that. Like the special master shit. He's like, no, I'm going to use that whole idea that I should get a
stall tactic
for him so that he can run out the clock and get through the midterms. And maybe there are more Republicans in Congress than there are Democrats, et cetera, et cetera. And there's no legal basis for any of the things that he actually files lawsuits for.
He just keeps everything so entangled in the courts, and so he just continues to get away with shit.
Yeah,
it's interesting because the seedier side of the political world and the business world down in the States gravitated towards him and sort of hung their hats on the Trump name, right? And they did it for power and influence, and for whatever reason they did it on their end. It seemed to fit, but a lot of them I mean, if you talk to them, if you hear them speak out loud, they talk about how smart he is in that regard, right? He is a very smart criminal.
Yeah, totally.
And he comes off like a tool, and we all see the things he says and his social media, and everybody wants to believe that this guy's an idiot. The problem is I don't know if that's true. I think he's actually
I think in the
smart
moment,
on a level.
I think on a level he is like he knows what works. He was trained by this dude named Roy Cohn, who was McCarthy's lawyer. Remember McCarthyism when they were accusing everybody of being Russian spies back in like the 50s and the 60s and shit. But like his social media platform, Truth Social Media, which is going to go bankrupt in the next couple of days apparently because they haven't paid like $2 million in web hosting fees. It's a fucking lot of money. Yeah, it's all
like,
the same. He's just a criminal.
Everything he does, he just launches and he.
This is what he put up on his Truth Social. Why are people so mean? That was yesterday. And not only is he fucking putting shit like vague booking, as they say, but he's also doing shit like this. Oh, now it comes out conclusively the FBI buried the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election. Knew that. If they didn't, Trump would have easily won the 2020 presidential election. This is massive fraud. And like the guy won't even stop when they're fucking putting pictures of his criminality on social media.
Here.
He says this is massive fraud at any level seen before in our country. Remedy, declare the rightful winner, and this would be minimal solution, declare the 2020 election irreparably compromised and have a new election immediately.
Trump would have easily won the 2020 presidential election. He conflicts him. He's always contradicting himself.
Which part?
He's saying right here, Trump would have easily won the 2020. He admits right there that statement is a statement of admission that he lost.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom here, he's declare the 2020 election irreparably compromised and have a new election immediately. Like the rightful winner. Declare the rightful winner.
That's
so he goes on by saying that he lost, but then he goes on to in the same fucking paragraph says he won. Like it's insane. It's fucking
which means
crazy.
He's not that smart. Like you gave him credit for being smart. He's smart on a level, but not on this level. And it gets worse. This is like from this afternoon. Terrible way the FBI during the raid of Mar-a-Lago threw documents haphazardly all over the floor in reference to this fucking picture. He's like, they threw documents. So he admitted to having them in that tweet. Like or truth, if you will. He admitted to having them, saying they haphazardly threw them all over the floor, pretending it was me that did it, and then started taking pictures of them for public to see. I thought they wanted them kept secret. Lucky, he says, I declassified.
Which he didn't. He didn't. He just said he did.
He's going to jail, dude, and he knows it. Like he knows it. This is how stupid his lawyers are. Let me play this for you. This is his lawyer saying mundane charges like espionage and obstruction of justice are no big deal. Again, case in point, he's kind of smart. He just hires smoke show lawyers. This lawyer is a parking garage lawyer. What?
And they say themselves in these papers that they filed that this is under the Presidential Records Act. So what they did was to try and criminalize Donald Trump, as they always do. They found these 3 mundane statutes, espionage and the 2 others, obstruction, and they're trying to claim that there was some sort of criminal activity, but their papers say it's under the Presidential Records Act. So your admission is the power that we've all been saying he does have.
So here's the great part about that. This might come as a shock to that parking garage attendant / lawyer that works for Donald Trump. He's no longer the president. That's the sticking point. That's what everybody, every constitutional law expert, every presidential historian is like. Here's the problem with hiring a parking garage lawyer. He's no longer the president. So he's not supposed to have access to any of it. At the same time, admitting that he has it. At the same time, admitting that people took pictures of it. At the same time, he's like, I guess the election's a fraud. That's the fucking amazing part. Like if I'm him, right, any normal person would go, I'm up to my fucking eyeballs in alligators. I got to do something here. I got to cop to something. I got to figure this out. Otherwise, I will never see the outside of the jail, and my family will be pariahs for the rest of their lives.
They already are. They are. The whole Trump name is just so in the shitter I mean, outside of a faction of the population in the United States, he's in trouble. I mean, would you even wrap your head around staying at a Trump hotel?
No, never would.
I'd pay $3,000 a night before I'd pay $100 a night to stay in a Trump
one of
hotel.
his hotels. I think, and by the way, Trump Hotel in Washington is now like a Marriott or something. It's something else.
They're
Trump
taking
Hotel
the
in
names
Vancouver
off
is
of
gone.
it because
Trump Hotel in Chicago is leaving. If it's not
Toronto.
already done, Toronto done. It was done a while ago though. That was done as soon
I
as he became the
think
president.
he's in trouble. I think he's actually financially. There's a lot of people that think that he has no money, right? That he is just fucked himself in the last couple of years. Like he's yeah. The word is out. I got to see handcuffs on him. I got to see him in that orange suit before I'll believe it'll happen.
All right, that's it for me. I'm done. You good?
I'm very good.
Anything else you want to cover? I was going to get to. What's that?
I like that Randy King.
He was great.
I like that Randy King. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed having him on. Yeah, he gave you some great advice. Maybe you should follow it. Maybe I should too. A bit of a problem. Temper.
My wife once told me she had this awesome piece of advice for me. And this was quite a few years ago. She goes, you know what you should start doing? And she had just taken some class work. And she goes, I know how much you like to write the angry email. She goes, but do this. Try this. She goes, write the email, get it off your chest, then save it. Don't send it. Then in the morning, read it. And I'm like, that's great advice.
Is this the first time you've heard this?
This was a couple years ago. Yeah. Listen, I'm not one that pays much attention to other people's ideas about how to run the world. Because remember I told you, I thought somebody put me on the world to fix all these problems, right? I have that ego. So I ran into a couple of situations after she told me this advice, and I told her, I said, listen, I think that's great advice. I told her, I said, here's the problem with that advice for me is I don't really worry about upsetting others. I don't really worry about, like most people would worry about upsetting somebody if they wrote something that they knew was going to be received poorly, right? See, that doesn't bother me. The other problem I have is if I've written something, quite often I'm quite proud of what I've written. And then I don't want it to go to waste. So even though I sat on it all night, woke up the next morning, reread the email, now I'm even prouder of what I've accomplished on paper. Mm-hmm. And I have to send it.
Yeah, that's called selfishness, actually. Emotional selfishness, I believe they call it.
And I'm with you. Listen, call it whatever you want. I swim around in those pools.
Have been ill-advised emails where I'm like, don't hit send, Dean. And I'm like, do it. Like that little thing on your shoulders, like, do it. That person will love to wake up to this email about how much of a cock they are. Yeah, they'll love it. Do it. And the other side's like, don't do it. don't, because you're going to wake up with anxiety knowing that you hit send on that email. Don't do it. Your mental health will suffer. I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. Send that note and add a couple more cunts to it. Do it. Do it now. I'm like, stop it. Stop doing it. And this guy sometimes wins more than he should. This guy over here.
Almost every time, exclusively, 100% winning record.
Total pussy.
I'm batting 1,000 with that guy.
Me too.
Never have I ever gone, no, I shouldn't send that. No.
Yeah. I do that now where I'm like, I'll send the email, I'll leave it in draft, and I'll be like, I'll revisit that in the morning when I calm down. And 100 times out of 100, I'm like, good idea. Just delete it. But there is the odd occasion where I'm like, this is some great work here. I don't think I've ever done better writing. I should send this to my ex-wife.
Yes.
I'm just that asshole. All right.
Don't ever
That's it.
Dean.
No,
Yeah.
I won't.
Okay,
won't.
buddy.
We'll save Pierre
I'll see
Poilievere
you
using
Friday.
Kate as props for Friday, and we'll save Lisa LaFlamme getting a whole hour discussion on CNN yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. Oh, fuck.
I didn't.
Bell's in trouble. It is so good to watch.
It's gone national, has it?
Oh,
International.
International. It is literally like, you know how people get upset when, like, you know, Canada's put in a bad light. This is one of the best. Like, let's finish with this, okay? Let's just finish with this.
Can I tell you the headline I saw that made me laugh out loud before you play it?
No, go ahead.
And I don't know if this is the CNN headline because I just saw the headline. It didn't really register who it was from, but it said, major company in Canada fires a national broadcaster because her hair was gray.
Dude, they are taking it in the fucking mouth.
Hoop.
Like,
in the hoop.
I've worked for some of these organizations. I've done a little spot work for Bell in the past. I would never work for them again. As a matter of fact, I said that in a tweet. I'm like, fuck, if it was the last place in the world to work and I needed a job, I'd fucking rather be homeless, literally, than have to deal with working for those cats. But the fascinating part of this whole thing was, like, I couldn't believe it was international news. Like, I couldn't believe that CNN picked it up. CNBC picked it up. I believe CBS did something about this, and everybody's naming names. Everybody's talking about the people who fired her.
Has that guy been let go yet? The guy
Michael Melling? Oh, yeah, dude. He's had to take a leave of absence. They're like, Michael Mellon's taking a leave of absence.
Oh, all that is just prolonging the inevitable. When he comes back, they'll.
Yeah, and then let me listen. I've taken a leave of absence from The Edge. 2 weeks after I took a leave of absence, I got a little piece of paper that said it's permanent. So fuck you. So I know how these things work, right? Yeah. Where it's like, no, you got to take a leave of absence while we do an investigation or we do our due diligence. And all they're doing is like moving chess pieces into place to try to figure out how to come out on top. There's no coming out on top of this with you if you're with Bell. Here's what happened on CNN the other day. I think this is Poppy Harlow that did the trick. Watch this.
Wendy's giving its iconic red-headed mascot gray hair. In Canada, the fast food giant has changed the hair color on its logo in support of veteran Canadian journalist Lisa LaFlamme, tweeting, quote, because a star is a star, regardless of hair color. LaFlamme worked as a reporter and anchor on CTV National News for more than 30 years, but this month, she revealed her contract was not renewed, with some claiming it was
I liked her, too.
She stopped dyeing her hair blonde during the pandemic.
I was blindsided and am still shocked and saddened by Bell Media's decision. At 58, I still thought I'd have a lot more time to tell.
Yeah, you're young. Look at you. She looks good, too. She looks great. She looks great.
For Bell Media, CTV's parent company, they say LaFlamme's hair color had nothing to do with the decision to let her go.
Right.
The head of CTV is now on leave after it was reported that he asked who approved the decision to, quote, let Lisa's hair go gray.
You gotta be kidding me. You know what kind of dick punch that is for Bell Media? Like, it is full on 12 alarm blaze over
I thought
there.
she looked great. Like,
unbelievable.
Does anybody care about hair color? Like,
no, I hope not. Look at this.
If you came back tomorrow and you like on Friday, like I'm not on tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you came in on Friday and you should put James's tweet up.
Yeah, we will.
He's got a big guest tonight.
Yeah, Max Bernier. James with Max Bernier.
If you came back tomorrow and you had like jet black hair,
yeah,
I would tease you mercilessly.
Mercilessly, yes. I would tease you back for not being able to say mercilessly. We'd have a good old tease session. But I would accept it because it's a ridiculous notion that one day I've got like Arctic blonde hair and I come in with jet black dew a week later.
So that's her hair color.
Right.
That's what she... That's your hair color, Dean. I've just accepted that at some point in your life you had a traumatic experience and your hair went silver.
It's genetic. My mom
vaping.
Like
that's when he started vaping, his hair went silver. And
totally
I've just accepted it. Kind of like you've accepted that I'm going to wear a ball cap because I don't like to see the lights shine off my bald ass shiny white head.
Yeah.
So I wear a ball cap on the podcast, not because I'm vain, but because I don't want it to be distracting. Right. This is my hair. No one is going to come into work and go, Locke, you can't host the locker room anymore because you're bald. But that happened to this woman. Like,
Yeah, she came in
Kind
one
of.
day and decided she's done coloring her hair. She let it go gray naturally. Boom, there she is. She looks like $1 million, and she gets fired. And
I thought she
that's
looked
the only
great.
story anybody cares. But that's not one of the only. Listen, here's the thing. I'm enjoying watching Belle get dragged. I've never seen this in my life, and in this country, we're kettled by two major news outlets, Rogers and Bell. That's pretty much it. You got a couple news dailies, all that other stuff. And I'm not going to go on my anti-MSM rant because it doesn't matter. I could care less at this point. But Bell has abused employees, human beings, for years. And from behind the Lisa LaFlamme story, you've got thousands of people who've been kettled, treated like shit by this company over the past several years, in the best interest of their investors and their CEOs' bonuses and all that other bullshit, that I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the stories that are coming out, like Danielle Graham's story about rampant sexism. Lots of friends who have been like, I haven't been able to say anything for years. Now I'm finally tweeting about it, right? Like, it's that emotional lift that it's giving a lot of people. But to that point, Bell, BCE, parent company, their share price is going down. You're watching watching executives get fired. You're watching the CEO Mirko Bibic come out and go, "Hey, I don't know what's going on here. This is so weird." And then you're watching the president of Bell Media, this guy named Wade Oosterman, go, "Hey, just so you know, there's something to this firing, and she had something to do with it. We just can't talk about it." And then you got the CEO go, "I don't know what he's talking about." Like, nobody knows what anybody is doing in that company, and it is becoming incredibly evident that it is very poorly run, right? And if I'm an investor and I'm like, Canada's a great place to invest in the telco market because you got two major players fucking over 35 million people, I'm not looking at Bell. I'm not looking at Bell if this is the press that they're getting internationally, and that is going to be a major problem for them going forward. On top of it, leadership like that, where you've got a woman who has just literally raised that company by speaking truth to power, you're going to have a bunch of other people come out and do it too. And it's starting to happen. And I'm wondering, like, fuck, dude, I didn't ever think we'd be at this place where you're looking at one of the two major news players, major content players, broadcasters in this country, one of two, 35 million people, get canceled. But I think we're seeing it. And I fucking love it.
You do, eh?
Yeah, I think we do.
Well,
I've got a friend that was offered a job there the other day, and he's like, not interested. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
I'm just saying the Piper's coming, right? Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this whole thing, because the one that I thought that deserved more attention was a couple years ago, and it was in the middle of COVID, and they do the Bell Let's Talk thing, and honestly, let's say this out loud. That is a fantastic initiative. It gets us talking online and in the workplace about, and we see a ton of coverage. It's not just Bell company, the company or the radio stations or the media outlets that they own that talk about it. People around the country start talking about Bell Let's Talk Day. Literally 3 days or 4 days after that, they fired 15% of their staff across the country.
Yeah.
It's just like, they just don't care. Like, how that seemed like a good idea is just baffling to me. These are smart people that are supposed to be running these company, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, you on the heels of this great thing that raises all this money and gets the conversation going, and then you do probably one of the worst things you can do to somebody for their mental health, right?
Like hurting cattle. And keep in mind, they're called the Bell Let's Talk firings. They fired hundreds of people a week after they did this big thing on mental health and what it's like to be a good employer that supports mental health. And then a week later, they put up a note, and there's like, just so everybody knows, there's going to be mass firings, and they fire like hundreds of people. But here's the great part.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing that we keep glossing over.
Yeah.
They put notes up in buildings.
Yeah.
So they sent a note, a sign.
It's coming. Someone's getting fired. It's going to be like firing
print
bingo.
This
might be
off.
You. Yeah.
Print this off. Take this PDF, print it, laminate it, and put it on the front of the building so that people see it when they come in.
Yeah.
Just a heads up. We got to fire 15% of the staff. And then the other thing is, They make billions of dollars. So this is not one of those situations where they were in trouble financially, right? And then I said to the one friend of mine, he got shit canned. I'm like, how do they rationalize the cell phone company makes billions of dollars and is anally raping the entire country with their cell phone bills every month? And then they say, well, you know what, the radio station leg of the company is down this month. How do they rationalize that when you're sitting there as an employee on the radio station side, and then they go, yeah, but we don't have enough money, and you go,
what about that bucket over there with billions?
You can't. They don't move that bucket of money over, and I'm like, why not?
I guess
move some of that over.
They want to get rid of the traditional assets. You know, the incredible part of that whole story, though, like this is the part that this is when Bell did this, like they've done a bunch of dumb shit to a lot of people I know. They've treated a lot of people I know like crap, like a lot, which is
Lisa
why
LaFlamme is just the one we're talking about right now. Yeah. We know Dean and I probably together, if we sat down and made a list, I bet you and I could come up with 100 people that got just
easily fucked. But you know what the amazing part of that is? Right before they fired everybody after they did this big initiative about talking about mental health, is they petitioned the Canadian government to give them, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million
for payroll
expenses
because of loss of ad revenue through the pandemic, and they got it
and payroll. So what they did was they got, like, all the broadcasters got a bunch of money, and they took all that money and they shoved it into their bank account, and then they went and fired all those people. Bell wasn't the only one.
That money never was used for payroll. It was used to pay off shareholders.
It was used for dividends, for sure.
Dividends. Yeah.
So you have
that's documented. You can go find that. Because they have to. They're a publicly traded company. You can go track that down.
Yeah. That's what they did. So they
I negatively think you were wrong. It was 122 million. Paul's right.
122 million? Is that what they gave Bell, or is that what they gave like the radio industry, Paul? If you know, can you put it in there?
I know there was a breakdown. I think that's what Bell got
from the government. We got zero. We're just a little P-done operation that just kind of fucking tries to do like media. And we do media in some cases so much better than them. We got zero.
Well, look at us.
We grew. We didn't fire anybody. We added a bunch of people. That's what Bell got, Paul said. So Bell got $122 million to pay the people they fired a week after their mental health initiative. And they didn't pay them. They just fired them and kept the money.
Yeah.
That's why I'm enjoying this. That's why I loved watching Poppy Harlow and four other women literally pull them out and go, fuck you guys.
That's why I have a hard time believing that there is any justice in the world, right? That's why you're not convincing me that Trump's going to jail. Just I've seen too much stuff like this in my 52 years on this planet.
Yeah.
Right? And it started back in high school. You want to hear that story again?
No.
Okay. Then we should sign off because I'm going to start into it. And she's a 30-minute one.
On Twitter. She's a 30-minute that one. At Lachlan Cross on Twitter, 957 Cruise FM at Edmonton every single weekend morning.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We really do appreciate it. The numbers of people watching live and downloading have been going up exceptionally in the last couple months for some reason. I don't know why, but you guys are clearly not entertained on other outlets. So we do appreciate you joining us.
Yeah,
it means a lot. Yeah.
Thanks buddy. Dean. Appreciate it. Yeah, great thing to say. All right, man. Talk to you soon. That's Lachlan Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. That's it for us. Have a great day, everybody. Don't forget, if you're in legal trouble, one of our partners can help you out. I love having great partners, specifically in the world of legal options. Kivlaw.ca. It's our partner. We are powered by our friends at Kivlaw.ca. Defense attorneys, lawyers, they'll help you get out of a jam. If you're wondering what you're doing and you're putting it off and you get some legal issues that are kind of hovering over your head, don't want to lose your freedom, want to be able to fight for everything that you have, and want to be able to kind of keep it on the straight and narrow. Also, maybe if you want to get some help, this is a guy that'll do that for you. He doesn't tell you what you need to hear. He tells you what will help you. Kivlaw.ca, defense attorney, Southern Ontario's best. And you can get a hold of Robert today, who owns Kivlaw.ca. Robert at Kivlaw.ca. Send him an email. He will help you. I can guarantee it. Tell him I said hi, and he'll go, I got you. I know. Dean sent you. Dean sent you to kivlaw.ca because you know that you're smart and you need some help. That is your guy. It's the only guy we trust. So make sure you use him today. That's it too for us. Thanks to our friends over at Easy Auto Financial for making this possible. These guys help you get into a car, your financing. It's hard to find financing sometimes, depending on your credit rating. Sometimes you just want to shop around. These guys shop around all that. Then they make sure they get you exactly what you need. And then here's the great part. They send you to get the car that you want and do all the legwork for that as well. So not only free financing, but it's also turnkey. That's why it's called easyautofinancial.ca. Check them out today. No obligation. And of course, Ed's Fine Imports and his Gitch. It's a clothing for men and boys at Ed's Fine Imports. He's got a ton of great stuff. Casual wear, business wear. He's got suits. He's got blazers. He's got jeans. He's got sweatshirts. He's got like t-shirts. He's got polos. He's got everything you can imagine. It is a massive online store. If you can't get to Markham, check out Ed's store. Just go to edsfineimports.com. Order his Gitch, if you would, please. Canadian-made underwear by a Canadian guy. And so the pouches in the front, definitely bigger than you'd get in the United States or maybe some other countries around the world. It's just fact of life. It's just anatomy. We have bigger things. We got more stuff. So he's made underwear for you. And if you want Canadian-made Gitch, go to edsfineimports.com. Order them today. Use promo code GITCH and then the number 3. You'll get a free pair when you order 3 or more. They've got a massive online store. It's not just about the Gitch. For me, it is. But it's also about the 34 Heritage jeans. It's also about the massive shoe selection he's got. And again, the online store is incredible. You can get 15% off your entire purchase. Just give him your email address. Get on his mailing list, too. He's got tips, tricks, dressing, news, trends, seasonal stuff. Make sure you check it out today. edsfineimports.com. Have a great day, everybody. We will see you probably tomorrow. We might take tomorrow off, but we will be back for sure by Friday. Why? Busy. Other things. See if we can fit one in tomorrow. We'll do our best. Anyway, have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Dean Blundell Show on YouTube, Dean Blundell TV on Twitch, and wherever you get your audio podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, etc. Have a great day. We'll see you probably tomorrow, for sure Friday. Bye.